computer. All right, class. For those who are not here, we have Jennifer and Zachary in the house. Okay, this is the final test, which is not cumulative. It's but of the test number 3. And what I will do is I'm going to share my screen with a Word document, basically showing all the major things that are on the test. And then I will also take and put this in the announcements so that everyone will have it. All right. So let me share my screen and everyone can kind of be looking at it. Okay. Let's see. Let me make it bigger. There we go. Does it seem big on your screen where you can see it? Okay. All right. So in our book, I don't think the definitions are quite as clean as I wish they were. But that being said, if you basically know Baroque, Rococo, Neoclassical, Victorian, and I'm not going to split the difference between like early and late as far as the definition goes. Art Deco, Art Nouveau, and arts and crafts. Maybe, yeah, because they put art moderne with Art Deco, which is fine. I won't be confusing about that. So essentially, think of it this way. Baroque followed the Renaissance, all right? And here's the difference to think about between Baroque and Rococo. Think of this way, the easiest way to do is think of Rococo as almost high Baroque, okay? So if you think of Baroque as starting heavy, dark, saturated color, and as it lightened, brightened, and became more theatrical, you got Rococo, all right? So again, the definitions I'm using are from this book and essentially like Wikipedia and the other art book that we have. So it's pretty simple, like a 3-sentence definition. Essentially, I'm having you match those. I would say if you read them pretty carefully, 1 or 2 you can easily figure out. Neoclassical, it's in the definition. Neo is like new, classical is looking back at classical works. In this case, we're referencing Greek, Roman, and some would say Egyptian or Etruscan. That's fine. But think of neoclassical is always looking back, all right? Victorian. Victorian is sort of a little bit of a always looking back at different times again and again. The other key thing to remember, it is named after Queen Victoria, all right? Oh, I might have Edwardian in there. If I do, know that's named after King Edward and it followed the Victorian. I don't remember if I do or not, because here's the thing. I think Edwardian and Victorian are so close for us, it doesn't matter. But if you really look at the fact that it followed the Victorian, it's basically like World War I. Yeah. But again, I don't think I have it actually, the definitions opposite each other, just because they're so close for this class. Art Deco. Art Deco is such a break from everything else. You'll clearly see that. That's like downtown LA buildings. You know, here where I live in Long Beach, Art Deco. Art Deco is taking actually the classical look and then streamlining it, modernizing it. It relies heavily like on glossy black, white, red, and metallics. Think about it, a New Jersey diner. That's Art Deco, all right? Think about if you're here, like in Long Beach, you're driving down Redondo, the Silver Fox, that's faux Art Deco, because it's not really Art Deco, but it's like a theatrical version of it, okay? There's big giant building like in LA that's Art Deco, many of them, all right? Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is almost like the feminine version of Art Deco in a way. Okay, like it's asymmetrical. There's wispiness to it. a lot of times for Art Nouveau, you're taking something and then that's natural, but then it's made in out of glass, steel, or concrete. Think about in France, like all those entrances to the French underground where it's those entwiny things. So think about Art Nouveau as being like more of natural shapes, organic, but non-organic materials usually. All right. Sometimes it could be wood. Carved wood would be okay. Arts and crafts. Arts and crafts is a direct opposition to the Industrial Revolution. Arts and crafts you'll find all across Southern California with those bungalows, right? Every town has bungalows. That's pure arts and crafts. Arts and crafts movement is generally described with using, wood materials put together and in a very obvious way. All right. The Gamble House in Pasadena is the most famous pieces of arts and crafts architecture, right? So I will be pretty clear, I think, with the definitions. I also give examples of where it's kind of a blend of two periods or two styles. I do have one specifically that's out of our other book, the Western Furniture book, where it's a blend of two styles. I have a few, and I'm pretty clear that I say what two styles are these. And for example, there's Baroque that is influenced by Asia. And then you'll also have, and it's, again, these are in our book, so it's ones that you could see. There's a piece that clearly blends Art Nouveau with Art Deco. And essentially it's like, what pieces are these? I think I only have one or two that you've never seen that I say with your knowledge, what period or style do you think this is? And I think they're pretty clear, like very little blending. And I try to make the answers where they're not tricky, okay? Furniture. So those are the definitions. I think you should also kind of know about the order they're in. Is there blending? Absolutely. But I will say, I'll call out the way you should know the order is just by the way they're given in our book. Okay. So again, Renaissance is done with. So we start with Baroque, Rococo, Neoclassical, Romantic, Victorians, early and late, Edwardian, modern, postmodern. Okay. And under modern is like Art Deco, Art Nouveau, arts and craft. And this book, I don't remember if it touches on the Edwardian that much. Anyway, it's kind of mine. I think it has some stuff in there, but just think of it almost as an extension of the Victorian period, really. Okay, furniture. You should know that Hepplewhite Shieldback chair, just because it's so prominent, it's a neoclassical chair. It's actually it's in both books, but there's a really good photo in the Essentials of Period Style. Western furniture influenced by the art of older civilizations and non-Western cultures. That's what I was just referencing. Like even in the late 1500s, the 1600s, there's furniture pieces that are Baroque and Rococo that were influenced by Japan, that were influenced by India, that have been influenced by the golden age of Islam. All right. And there are ones in our book, in our furniture book, and they're pretty clear. So I would say look back through the chapter. And I think this is really important. And I'll tell you why. Because you might do a show that you really want to give an Asian feel to, like you're redoing an Arthur Miller play, and you want to keep it in the United States, but you're like, how do I make it give this feel of it's an Asian family? Maybe you embrace some stuff like that. Like, for example, here's one being classically influenced, okay? So something like this. This is clearly classically influenced, So take a look through those sections in this book. And essentially, just like the past tests, If you look at the images, again, should you read it? Of course. Is it a lot of words? Absolutely. But if you really mainly go through and look at those images, okay, and read the what it says, like for example, in this section, the wilder shores of style, China, Japan, India, Egypt, Africa, okay? And obviously this is kind of an old-fashioned colonial look, but it's back then it was sort of an old-fashioned colonial look, unfortunately. But like this piece, all right, like how gorgeous is that piece right out of our book, okay? That if you wanted to, and I've done a show, I did a show once that was done in both Korean and English by Korean actors and American actors, and they literally use different sections. So sometimes the Koreans would speak English and sometimes the Americans would speak English. And it was like a 1960s American play. What I did was I got like Asian influenced Western furniture of the Victorian period and the wallpaper and everything. So it was clearly Victorian, okay, because it was written to be about the Victorians, even though it was written in the 1950s. But yet all of it was clearly Asian influenced. So it really sort of resonated, like, you know. So again, I think that period, that's important. So take a look through that chapter, the wilder side, you know, and the other one talking about neoclassical, which is right before it. Okay, Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is A, just gorgeous. B, it's one of those periods that it's like a lot of people don't, a director might not readily think about, but if you use it, you can instantly put something in Europe. You can instantly give it a unique twist, okay, even if it's in America. Do we have Art Nouveau? Absolutely. Is it as prevalent as in Europe? No, it's not, unfortunately. Okay, the next one is Art Deco. Look through the Art Deco section. It's not very big in either one of these books. I would say literally type in Art Deco buildings, LA. You know, the next time you're driving around, look at some of them. You know, again, they're beautiful. You might go in television and film. Guess what? Almost all of them you can rent for $6 grand a day. You know, I mean, and in TV, that's not that much. So, so take a look around and look at the Art Deco buildings. You know, read the chapters. There are only a few pages in either one of these books, really. You know, Bauhaus is important. All those are important. I don't think there's any on the test. All right, you know, so I'm really kind of giving you, because I know there's so much material in the last section, I'm kind of breaking it down. Architecture. Okay. Art Deco architecture, late Victorian styles in architecture. Those are in our styles book. Take a look at the late Victorian architecture. You know, I'll ask a couple of, I'll use a couple photos out of the book of residences and essentially ask, you know, what do you think, what period do you think it is? So know about the late Victorian styles in architecture. Identify neoclassical elements. Remember, that's your columns, your frieze, okay? If it looks Roman or Greek, it goes under the umbrella of neoclassical. Now, I will say the exception would be postmodern. I'm not putting any postmodern things in there that also get weird with neoclassical elements. The postmodern pieces I'm putting in have no neoclassical elements, I don't think, okay? All right, this postmodern basically is a jumble of anything. Frank Lloyd Wright, ooh, I think I misspelled his name. I just realized that. You want Frank Lloyd Wright, know his work, you know, it's in the book. I'd say Google it. Most important works by Frank Lloyd Wright, and literally just look at a couple. And I'm probably going to use an image out of the book. You know, Le Corbusier, right out of the book. It's like Le Corbusier is Villa Savoye, basically sort of like opened the new door for modern architecture and is revered by architects. It's in France. And I think if you know that building and read that little section on it. Frank Gehry, there you go. Frank Gehry's still alive. He's 93 and he's got a stack of work. You know, he's an LA based architect. He's American Canadian. And I have one of his works in there. I think it's out of the book, I'm pretty sure. Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, again, huge architect, mid-century modern and international style. The Cliff Palace, which is originally Anasazi and then was adopted, I think, by the Hopi or the Navajo. It's in one of the reading materials. Actually, I think the Le Corbusier is actually not in her book. I think it's in all the reading materials. I think the Frank Lloyd Wright also might be in the reading. That might be in both, okay? But definitely in the reading materials. The Palace of Versailles, we all kind of know that one. That one you probably won't even have to brush up on. And the Church of the Jesu, all right? I think it's a really good, one, if you go to Italy, you should visit it. Two, I think it's a great example of the very beginning, the start of the Baroque, okay? So that, know the Church of the Jesu. All right, that's all the architecture. If you just go through and look back at all the reading material, if you just, again, you can see the stuff I'm not, all the stuff that's not on here, I'm not going to ask about, at least as I hope not. If I do, it slips in, then call me on it and I'll change it. Okay, I'll change the grade. All right, the artwork. This is either the name of the artwork, the artist, or the group of people, okay? Know about the Kuba people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. They've had this similar kind of artwork for like 400 years. And that is really kind of, I think, kind of cool. The Caucigo tribe of North America, they have one where it's a painting on like a animal skin. Aztec, you know, honestly, it's gonna be the easiest one to probably identify because I know we always think of the Aztec, the Olmec, the Toltec. The Aztec is so much more recent. That's why they're in this part, not the earlier civilizations. So the Aztec, I think, should stick out because nothing else looks like them in this group, okay? Know the artist Roy Lichtenstein. He's famous for like the big blow up of cartoon stuff. Joseph Beuys. Joseph Beuys isn't covered enough. Actually, no, none of the modern artists are really covered that well in here. But Joseph Beuys is probably the most prominent post-World War II German artist and worked in so many different areas. Just know, if you go back to our art book, okay, which I have a couple different copies here, like if you just look up Joseph Beuys in here, I think you'll be okay. All right. Portrait of Madame Recamier. That's actually in, I think, all three of our books. Okay. And think about it, like, how is that considered the epitome of neoclassical style? All right. So take a look at that. Again, I think it's actually in black and white in our furniture book, in color in our book. And I think it might be in here too. All right. So it's actually not a piece of one that I actually ever thought of that high esteem, but it's probably the period I know the least about. They're like the whole neoclassical revivals. That being said, after reading about it and looking at it, I see why it's as important as it is. So Portrait of Madame Recamier. Know who Christo and Jean Claude is. When I was a kid, it was just Christo, you know, but then he added Jean Claude, you know, just because back then everything was so much more masculine. But take a look at them. They are in the reading material. Know the work called The Book of the Sky. All right. It's an installation. It's really way toward the end. That artist is really up and coming right now. Super hot. Pepin Orso. Take a look at their work. It's in the reading material. Frida Kahlo. Okay, who else we have? Nam June Pak. He was huge when when I was a kid, you know, and he's got a big piece in our reading material. Let's see, we have Marcel Duchamp. Basically, without Marcel Duchamp, we would have modern art really. And the piece you really should know is the one called The Fountain, labeled like our mutt. All right. And we don't have the original one. We have a photo of it. And then it was later in the 60s kind of redone, because like the idea of creating what he called a ready-made, which meant he literally just bought the damn thing. And there were other ones too, and put it in a gallery, like absolutely as non-art as possible, open the door for people to go, what could be art? You know, without him, we wouldn't probably have performance art. We probably wouldn't have devised works. I mean, he literally started that stuff with the other people he was kind of with at the time in New York. He was a French artist, but was in New York at the time. And they had this massive show called the Armory Show. And it really changed the idea of what art could be. Okay. So no Marcel Duchamp. He's in this book. I'm pretty sure he's in the reading as well. I don't think he's in either our books. He might be, but he's definitely going to be in this book, you know. As y'all probably figured out, you know, the last name or what they're mostly known by is listed first. I list it second, but bold it on your required list so you can find it, you know. No, Gustav Klimt, you know, he's in your book. And I will say, the first time I went to Vienna and I saw it in real life, I was blown away. It's so much gold and it's so big. You know, so Gustav Klimt. All right, let's see. Marcel Duchamp. Frida Kahlo. Yeah, definitely no Frida Kahlo. I have 3 different editions of this book, and I will say that I have discovered that different sometimes there's it just gets to be more artists in the newer one. I'm using the oldest one, but I've tried to make sure that I'm not using any artist that's not in the oldest book in case that's the one you have. That being said, sometimes the artwork is a little different. So if you kind of know that artist, though, I think you'll be okay. All right. A Piet Mondrian, super known for one thing: white field, squares of color, black lines. All right. Super famous for it. If something comes up like that, it's Piet Mondrian, right? Okay. All right. Gustav Klimt, we just talked about. Oh, all right. Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, the young ladies of Avignon, huge painting. I mean, that, although not my favorite Picasso, I think it was so big in the fact that no one expected stuff like that. And originally it was like the prostitutes of Avignon, and then he changed the name, you know, but it made so much fervor, because think of it this way. We look at it being displayed as it is there. When it was first displayed, it was with all this neoclassical romantic paintings. How does that look? It's like Frank Gehry's Guggenheim, which I'm maybe asking about, maybe not. Okay, but Frank Gehry's Guggenheim in New York looks so, because it's a giant spiral, you know, building. You can look it up. It looks so amazing because it's next to these standard older buildings. If there was 10 of them, it wouldn't look so important. Okay, all right. Claude Monet, he's right out of the reading. And he is in this book, but I'll just say the things I'm using are out of the reading. I think it's kind of obvious, but it's in the reading. Starry Night over Rhone. There's a lot of Starry Nights, sort of. But again, they're all kind of by the same artist. So maybe take a look. It's in the reading. Reliquary Garden Figure. That's one of the African pieces. All right. No, the Edo peoples. That's also one of the African groups. And then William Hogarth. William Hogarth, I'm only asking about one thing, but literally in theater, we could do an entire class over William Hogarth. I mean, he did plays. He was sort of like the Robert Wilson of his day, where he was like, you know, a writer, performer, artist, in the fact that everything was so theatrical. Anyway, that is it. Questions?
Awesome.
I mean, I would say everyone's done pretty well on the test, so I'm not too nervous. I'm only a little nervous in the fact it's a lot more material. I don't know if I'd say a lot. I would say it's about 20% more material than any of the other sections. So, which makes me think, should I add, I don't think I'll hope we're hiring a new set designer, which I can say, I just can't say who. And I think they'll take this class mainly because one, I actually kind of like it, but I also would like it if they did it. but I might do it one more time just so that they get a chance to get their feet wet without having to create a whole class like this big. Okay, because I have no idea how many shows they've had to advise on before. You know what I mean? Like we do a lot at school, and they need to keep their professional career up, which might be hard in COVID in order to get like tenure and stuff. So I might do it one more time, and I might do it over winter, you know, to let students, hey, you want a winter class? Get this out of the way, you know. But anyway, so any questions you can think of directly about the class? Any of these ones you want more information on? Any of the definitions you think that you're not sure of?
I think I'm good personally.
Okay.
I
All
don't know
right.
about Zachary.
I mean, here's the thing. If you literally just go through and check each of these off and like look through your book and read it, or, you know, again, I took what they have and then condensed it for like a 2-sentence definition, 3-sentence definition. Okay. And I try to make them pretty clear. You know what I mean? Like the only two that I think are, well, you could a little bit mix up maybe arts and crafts and Art Nouveau. Think of it this way. Arts and crafts is a direct opposition to the Industrial Revolution. Art Nouveau is more of an elegant evolution from Art Deco. Not exactly, but, you know, yeah, I think the Western furniture stuff, I think it's usually pretty clear what the other thing is, you know, and I won't make it where it's like, you know, like, is it Japanese, Chinese, Korean, or, you know, that might be a little tricky. In fact, I will say in Europe, there was no, like, it would be all just like an Asian influence, you know what I mean? So I would combine the country names or something. All right, I think, yeah, I will then post this onto the thing. So you're good, Jennifer? You're good, Zachary? All right.
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward.
All right. Yeah, again, it's about like the other tests. In fact, I think it's exactly the same almost. I just know that the material that is not on here is greater than the other ones because it's still only like a, you know, it's still about it's 51 questions. I think the last one was 49. The first one might be 50. So it's more material that you theoretically don't have to know, you know, but hopefully you would kind of try to read most of it. All right. Well, that's good then. I will stop this and let me stop the recording and I will